Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining today's session. Happy Tuesday. I'm really delighted today to be joined by Roland and Mark from SAP and from LC Systems to talk today a little bit about SAP's approach to SOAR in the AI era. For those who don't know me, I'm Thomas. I'm one of the founders at Tynes, the intelligent workflow platform. I'm spending all of my time focusing on the future of AI right now. So this is a really exciting area for me to talk about with these two sensible and practical and intelligent folks. So I'm looking forward to the conversation. Roland, do you want to introduce yourself?
Thanks, Thomas. It's a pleasure to be here and to talk about AI. I think it's we are talking about AI in every industry and in every technology discussion that we have, and it's really good to talk about AI in security also. So I'm Roland Costilla. I'm the Chief Security Officer for Enterprise Cloud Services in SAP. I'm Romanian. I'm living in Germany and 5 years with SAP now, and I'm leading globally the security practice, what we do in security in the cloud space, from defensive architecture and up to GRC and things on the compliance space. Automation and AI is part of our strategy and roadmap, and how can we actually be better and gain speed into everything that we do in security. So pleasure to be here. Mark, I hand it over to you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm Mark. I'm the director at LC Systems. LC Systems is a company founded in 1989 in Switzerland. I'm the director for Germany. My last name is French, and I live in Germany. And I had the pleasure of coming to Dublin recently. And yeah, we've been working with SAP for quite a while, and we are a partner of Tynes. And so I will hand it back to Thomas for the rest of the slides, please.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mark. Thank you, Roland. So here's a little bit about what we're going to cover today. We're going to talk a little bit about the AI era of SOAR. I suppose how SOAR has evolved over the last few years, and I suppose what it's going to look like in the future. We're definitely going to talk about SAP's challenge, the sheer size and scale and complexity of SAP's environment is intimidating. So I'm really excited to dive into that and learn a little bit more from Roland about how he approaches it. Um, we'll talk a little bit about moving from playbooks to intelligent workflows involving humans and involving AI as well, from your deterministic style playbooks. And we'll talk about the evolution of AI-driven workflows. And then lastly, we'll give a little bit of a preview and have a bit of a conversation about what the future might look like for SAP. Today, I think we're at a bit of a turning point. We're moving away from traditional SOAR. It's definitely served us super well, but as cloud environments scale, as we enter multi-cloud, like the complexity and speed of business changes, I think just traditional SOAR just can't keep up. We need systems that don't just automate, that they're able to adapt, they're able to learn, they're able to, I suppose, invoke the correct tool at the correct time on the fly, as well as learn. At times, we call the platform that this should be an intelligent workflow platform. That's Tynes, and we kind of call the phase of the future of these autonomous or these agentic workflows an AI SOC. So it's built on workflows that combine deterministic workflows with agentic workflows with human in the loop workflows, and it's kind of like adaptive AI assisted orchestration. SAP, unsurprisingly, are cutting edge and are a prime example of this shift in action, and that's what we're going to be focusing on a lot today. Before we dive into exactly how you're approaching it, though, Roland, I don't think I'm sharing anything confidential. I don't think even understating it by saying you lead security for one of the most complex enterprise cloud environments on the planet. Can you start by giving us a snapshot of your security landscape and some of the challenges that that you're facing right now that led you to kind of reimagine SOAR?
Sure. So let me start a bit by framing enterprise cloud services. So I would say we are right now as you mentioned, the biggest private cloud in the world. Just to put some numbers to the equation, we run almost 8,000 customers, and that represents 44% of global GDP that today runs in RISE with SAP. So from the complexity perspective, imagine that we practically migrate SAP workloads, huge business transformations from on-prem to the cloud. We operate on multiple infrastructure layers. The main ones are definitely the hyperscalers, so AWS, Azure, Google Cloud. But then we also have sub data centers. We have what we call customer data center. We have right now, next year, starting with IBM Cloud, Alibaba, Schwarz IT. So practically, whatever you may think about from infrastructure perspective, we will run on it. Now, it comes with the complexity layer. It's definitely how to make it run standardized, efficient, and secured in the same way for all these hyperscalers or infrastructure level platforms being more kind of on-prem related or even cloud related. So sub data centers and the customer data centers can be more close to what we call on-prem today, still today. But then it's a lot of integrations. We have data sources that come that they are maybe not standardized. We have our own tool sets, either historically or new tools that we use both in provisioning and how to actually make those environments. We actually deploy some tens of customers every week. So how to actually make that fast, automated, and secured. We have our own internal, even legacy tool sets that we still have to operate because they have a lot of integrations in the back end, plus all these customers that migrate. There may be a brownfield migration. It's not all the time as far as we'd want to be. The grass is not all the time greener. It also comes with some brown areas out there. So there is still ECC. There are still custom code developed on top of those ECC. So the complexity is, and you have a new customer, and because everybody is different from that size perspective, when you talk about large enterprises, you kind of have a unique deployment no matter how much you try to standardize. So that comes with, the challenge that every small mistake that you think it's small can actually become huge because it can have an impact somewhere in the world, in an airport or in a supermarket or somewhere. So I would say there are, when we think about strategy, and the people who heard me talking think I'm obsessed about speed. And for me, speed and security is really critical. The way we can identify, detect, protect, respond, recover, govern. And I'm all the time challenging my team how to actually be better and how to make it better and faster all the time. And there are, of course, different areas that we invest in. Um, there are, I would say, two big shifts that shaped how we think about SOAR in the last months or even let's say in the last year. I would say first one is detection was um, gotten more prolific and definitely more complex. So we process today, I think, close to 100 terabytes of data every day. So if you look in Gartner, every company out there processes around 27% more and more data every day. We process in the last 3 years, I would say, more than 100% of data in on a yearly basis. Increase, let's say, more than 100% increase of data that we are processing because of the scale that we have and the growth that we have. So that means we have a lot of telemetry. We need to understand what do we really need, not processing everything. And there are logs coming from everywhere. Hyperscalers, we have Kubernetes, we have cloud security posture management, endpoint protection, everything that you can imagine. And every data source comes with, different sort of operational challenges, operational rules, manual checks. Is it the right log? Is it the right data? Can we process less? Do we need more, etc.? Then is the rise of AI and, of course, the advanced detection engineering, which we also invested in because we have to deploy detections at scale. And it's not only about trying manually with your analyst to say, hey, I'm building this detection, I'm building this detection, but how can we actually in a more automated manner look into the data set? Is it the right data set or is it the right data that we process versus a framework like meter that we use? And how can we automate detections at scale that actually will allow us to deploy 5, 4, 5, 6, maybe X times quicker than we are doing in the past? And of course, there is some fine tuning needed there. So that's how we thought about to process data faster. We invested in Cribble. We have Databricks for our main data lake. We use normalization, context on top of those data. We still rely on Splunk, but also on Vlogic to do detection engineering and actually give us what we try to call the next generation SOC. But all that creates complexity, but also opportunity. So we can if we can, I would say, orchestrate intelligently, we can move from reactive manual process to intelligent auditable operations. And that's what I would say the goal is not to replace people, it's to empower them. So we want automation that can improve again speed and give us consistency to be able to have a proper governance and auditability. So in all our reports, be it SOC 2 or be it PCI or etc. So this is our, I would say, priority without sacrificing control. So it's speed without sacrificing control, and it's AI and automation that can in the end increase trust rather than hiding the trust.
That's awesome, and it's a really noble goal. Obviously, it's very evident just how deep your understanding and experience with this is. I really love the framing. Yeah, speed without losing control. Can you tell me a little bit more about what that looked like inside the ECS area within SAP before automation came into play?
Yeah. So I started, I would say 2020. So if I look back to that year, our incident process was entirely or heavily, let's say, manual and fragmented. We had an alert would require an analyst to go into different tools. We had a CMDB, then we have an antivirus, then we have an EDR, and then we have our SIM, and then we have Active Directory and Cloud Access Manager, who is our user authentication and authorization, but also used for privileged identity and access management. And then we have the ticketing system. So all these systems just to collect some basic context. So we were we were having an alert in Splunk, and then we were looking at it and trying to say, oh, I still need that data. Okay, let's go and look in another console. Well, can we grab this thing? And then everything was consolidated somehow. I will not call it in Excel sheets, but still people coming to bridge calls or to instant calls that have all these data sets, trying to gather something, putting it in a SharePoint on a way that we can collaboratively look into it and make decisions. And actually, that meant the cost of an alert or the cost of an incident was increasingly higher, even if it was not necessarily a high or critical incident. We spent a lot of time or analyst time into that investigation process. Now, there were two operational dynamics that made this worse: the scale of detection sources, and then I would say adding a new telemetry source actually was coming with a lot more work in the back end. What detection should we work? How do we map that? And then we actually were pushed, or even from my end, pushing the team. Hey, look, we have all these data sets now. We have to create new detections, and then new detections. How many have we created? Can we have a KPI there? So there are a lot of abundance of data sets that actually allowed us to have practically blind spots, I would say. And then there are multiple teams involved. SAP is not complex only from the environment perspective, but it's complex also from the structure perspective. So we had our own internal Accenture that actually delivers some services for us and for me. We have our own internal, and when I say Accenture, I don't necessarily mean literally Accenture, but we have some global teams that can be considered like managed providers that do things for us, line of businesses, us being, probably the biggest line of business in SAP. And we take that activity as an internal service, and we use it to actually deliver what we have to deliver or based on our strategy roadmap and what the customers want. So multiple teams involved, multiple teams that knew only one area or their tools, not actually having the big picture, how to put them work together to actually um, gain speed. It was kind of everything was slow, inconsistent, not really easily auditable. It was a bit of an operational risk and delay in everything that we're doing.
That,
If you
yeah,
think also about customers, yeah, when customers, when they move their main systems or core business systems to the private cloud, yeah, the expectation is to be better than them, and that's what we actually invested in the last 5 years. How can we actually be better and faster and at least be able to compete with, all of our top customers? And in the end, security is, I like to call it, is not objective science. It's subjective. Yeah, one person would say that this should be done that way, or that way is better, or that way is better. But somehow getting it all together and make a consistent framework and a lot of investment in different areas to actually gain speed and proving that to the customers through, through real metrics and through real results and that kind of a feeling, and do that even with transparency. That's what we went on.
Yeah, the phrase that I used to, I worked in SecOps for 10 years. The phrase that I used to use is the better we got at detecting, the more we had to respond to. And the more we had to respond to, the more, yeah, inevitably, the more work that there was. But it kind of, again, at your scale, it obviously isn't just about speed and responding, it has to be structure. Um, so yeah, otherwise you're just gonna have like chaos for your analysts. I guess getting to the place that your automation could like handle that, you must have, what you measured informs your outcomes. How did you, I suppose, what metrics were you hoping to impact? How did you structure it so that you knew what, when you put in place a new detection that you weren't going to be killing your analysts? How did you, yeah, how did you measure that? How did you approach that?
Yeah, exactly. That's a good point. So I would say our key metrics were to reduce noise or even, waste, like missed alerts or even redundant work, minimizing error, doing triage, but also doing the whole incident process. So w- we focused on first, so lowering mean time to resolution, improving consistency, lowering the time we spend in detection engineering. We wanted to say, hey, if in 1 year, I'm just guessing some numbers, we can do 100 manual fine-tune detections, I want to see how I can do 500.
Yeah.
That's not about putting people to a problem. It's about, in the end, it's achieving speed improvements in certain workflows in a way that is, verifiable, that is compliant, that is sustainable, that is scalable, and that can be trusted.
There's a couple of years ago, Netscope came out with a really good blog around all their like measurements of how to measure the effectiveness of a SOC. But some of it was like, yeah, mean time to add a new log source, as well as mean time to add a new detection, and like how quickly can you write a high fidelity detection that you're able to deploy across your entire environment is genuinely probably a better measure of the maturity of your SOC than than a whole load of others. Um, Mark, you've seen this from a couple of different angles, but obviously from the consulting side, you've seen it. I suppose, how have you observed it? What have you observed?
We see that there's a significant change in security if you compare the way security was done 10, 20, 30 years ago
Hmm.
and the way it is done today and it will be done in the future. And Roland is a professional chess player, so I think the best way to navigate through those things is having a strategy. And what I've seen, I hold a degree in economics and engineering, is we have an industrialization when it comes to the challenges of security. So in the early days, especially in Germany, you had large companies with maybe $1 billion revenue, and you had one person being in charge for security and network. That was it. Yeah. And that is changing dramatically. I don't know if Roland can share numbers about his team, but you, it's grown a little bit over years. For example, the BSI, the German Board for Information Security, they have a 20% target mark. 20% of IT budget should be spent on security. So that's a financial number. I don't know honestly any company having that. Yeah. Another challenge is that you don't get enough people. And then if you look at Roland's numbers, it's just the complexity. Thousands of customers, every environment is special. And the one thing that can help you big time, and that is what we're looking at LC Systems, is there any technology out there that is helping big time, that is disrupting, that is making a change, is workflows. Workflows stay pretty stable over time. Yeah. You will see technologies change. Windows, OS2, mainframes, whatever. But the workflow basically will remain pretty unchanged over time. And that is where we see the sweet spot of times. And yeah, it's happening right now.
Beautifully put. So, like, to summarize, like too much work, too complex environments, not enough people. So you kind of came to the conclusion that automation is one of the automation workflows are one of those paths forward. Obviously, Roland, you took a strategic approach, but let's talk about that. How did you, even just where did you start?
Yeah, that it's a good question. So when we started the automation journey, we asked ourselves what part of the process of what processes in the organization create I would say the most waste and risk. And I remember we had an event. I went on stage and internally, and I talked about a strategy. And one of the things that I said there was, I want to get back to the to basics. If we do the basics right, then it's much easier to have innovation and everything. Yeah. So I don't want to have the greatest roof and solar panels and everything, but the foundation is just there and I have no door and the door can be easily cracked and all that. Yeah. So I want to just go back to the basics. And for us, that was, if you think about the context, was enrichment, correlation, data collection, then even the audit was evidence collection. So everything around the data. If you have the right data, you can do plenty of things, even develop, products and services and whatever that it's about data. So we focused on automating these repetitive tasks that were easier at the beginning, enrichment, log collection, or evidence data collection, playbooks to pull CMDB entries, configuration data, proxy logs, WAF logs, identity info, networking, um, everything that somehow an analyst would need to have at hand. Then I would say the duplication, confidence scoring, alerts that were clearly duplicates or collapsed, uh, helping to prioritize attention of an analyst when they are actually going into the triage or even instant response. And in the end, automated the incident creation and even some um, level of orchestration there to actually be able to um, run the workflow in ServiceNow or whatever ticketing systems. I think we even move from one to another and even attach evidences there or try to pull data sets so that it's at hand of an analyst or somebody that's looking into it to actually take decisions. Um, so I would say there are different challenges or different things we went through from, auditability. We looked in the log, what kind of data is in there, who triggered it, what data was fetched, timestamp, everything that could create a case or even a forensic case in the end. And then it was integration. For us, it was we went back to the source, and my question was the old way of thinking. Please give me this log. Let's enable this logging, send it to the SIEM. Let's enable this log, send it to the SIEM. It's like, okay, why do I have to do that? What is the log, this data helping me? When you collect 100 terabytes of data a day, I just need to ask my teams like, guys, okay, we have a framework, we have a detection playbook. Do we need to collect the full log or maybe 1% is enough? What kind of patterns from this data set you need to be able to successfully create that detection logic? And then let's go back to the technology. Where do we need to route that? Do we need to have it in hundreds of data lakes? Do we need to have it in the SIEM? Why should I store it in the SIEM? For what reason? So there are different kind of let's say, data architecture decisions that we had to actually be able to take us to the level where we can orchestrate, we can correctly define it at the source. We don't pay a lot of money. It's efficient, it's fast, and it gets to the destination where it needs to go. And actually the results were really, you could see them. There were immediate results, there were measurable results. We could gain a lot of speed from, I could measure around 3 to 6x um, in first decrease of the amount of data we were processing, because we didn't needed that much of data. Yeah, we just needed a piece of it, and we were just processing everything because it's easy. You just enable it, enable it, enable it, send, send, send. But just how to make it more intelligent and efficient. And then it's actually, you could see the data is really the right one, and you will see that when you apply any logic on it, it makes it more easier, it's faster. And then we started to create much more, I mean, better detections that would spend first less time, but less time also in the fine tuning of it. And then going further to see how we can, even automate that process.
Yeah, I love it. It's when we talk about like how we talk about how important like clean data and structure is like for analysts. It's so clear, even the way you describe it there, it's so clear that like having all the data up front that you need, the context that you need, will obviously make their lives a lot easier. It'll obviously make their job, cleaner, and they'll be hopefully happier and be able to focus on, more SAP specific work. The other part about it is that if you read a whole load of blogs and content around AI at the moment, everybody's talking about the need for clean data. Everybody's talking about like the importance of having your log sources, that you can't just throw an agent at the problem. So you kind of set yourselves up for the future by doing this. You've really, that foundation that foundation is really is hopefully going to stand to you. Um, yeah, in fact, it definitely is going to stand to you. I suppose when you're thinking about then like the improvements and when AI comes along, how did you think about it? How did you think about like the improvements that AI could make to your workflows?
So we we definitely run in steps. Yeah, so you can just apply AI directly, and we talked about that, because then you need some steps to be done. So then we are thinking how to actually make the automation smarter. And we talk about AI, but we started with a goal that was tune the basics, make the basics better, and then gain speed there. So speed in triage, in enrichment, instant creation, all that. And then how to actually build on that with context and with AI driven insights, AI driven workflows, AI driven maybe decisions that could be manual or semi-manual or even automated in some lower cases. So here's how it works. So we have a, let's say, a suspicious alert is triggered in Amvilogic or in our Splunk or all together. Amvilogic can run on the lake or it can run on Splunk, so it doesn't really matter. So there are different points where we collect that, and then it's Tynes who pulls the relevant telemetry, enrichment data, context into a single summary. We call it risk summary, or you can call it whatever, instance summary. And instead of the analyst hunting across these multiple systems, the workflow consolidates what triggered the alert, the signals behind it, CMDB data, supporting evidence, and everything kind of in one place. Then you have a detection logic that triggered it. You can validate it. You can decide, maybe, I don't know, escalate or adjust, maybe see, oh, actually that's a false positive based on, different data set or evidences that you have at hand. It's like, I want the AI or the smart, the whatever, let's say, yeah, I would call it AI. It's easier to handle the what and why, while the human to own the so what. So what are we doing next? Yeah. So I don't want the AI to just tell me, hey, do this and that. I want literally humans to be able to interpret the results of all these data collection and analysis and say, hey, look, This is what we have to do now. And that becomes really, the intelligent work for the people in there. Because IR was even in the past and data collection was considered like, hey, it's a work that you do for 2 years and then you are bored and you move on. And, it's just kind of right now it becomes more fascinated or more interesting than it was in the past. Yeah. But
Yeah, I was just going to jump in there. Like,
yeah,
yeah, like absolutely, definitely. It's also like just you just can't have a black box, right? Like it has to be like, especially with the risk tolerance that you're in. But the alerts have to be explainable. But it can't just be you hand it off to an AI and the AI makes the decision.
yeah, exactly.
It depends on the risk tolerance, depends on the alert, depends on the context. But what you actually want is you want the explainability, and then you want the human being in the loop to be able to say, okay, yeah, this looks good, this looks bad, and understanding the context behind it that's SAP specific, or in your case, like customer specific potentially. And that's so important to understand the decisions that are made rather than just like, yeah, letting it. And you can, and we'll be talking about it in a whole lot of other webinars. But yeah, I suppose it just depends on what you the approach you want to take. But that explainability is just it's critical to the process.
Yeah, and now when you look in the future, when we look in the future, we experiment with agentic AI.
Yeah.
We try to build small, of course, and then to scale, but we look in different specialized agents that can collaborate to execute parts of this workflow or workflows. So one agent handles even detection hunting, or even the detection piece, detection hunting, taking different sort of insights, even CTI and etc. Then another one is doing case correlation and making sure all these evidences are there, and another one is interrogating, I don't know, CMDB and all our internal automation or deployment tool sets, and gathering all these together without even the analyst or people to actually be able to do this task manually or even semi-manually, let's say. I want them all together to be already done and have in a let's say common place or middle layer place, where a tool like Tynes can go and create workflow, and create automations for different playbooks out there, based on the types of incidents. So in short, I would say now automation handles this repetitive data intensive work: enrichment, data duplication, confidence scoring, evidence collection, data sets, while AI gives us these explainable insights and analysts provide the judgment and the governance. So over time, balance is, you need to be careful. I would say better analyst inputs make better models, which make in the end better automations. So it's still a combination between human AI agents, data, how to actually make them work together in the most efficient and secure and fast way.
Yeah, I've been going back and forth with a couple of these slides, but it all makes tons of sense. And I suppose again, it's that trifecta of like the humans where humans are really good, the AI or agents where agents is really good, and obviously your deterministic workflows where workflows are really good. And that's kind of what we focus on is like the intelligent workflows, the AI providing explainable insights, and the analysts focusing on the judgment and governance. So it's kind of that like holistic, I suppose for us it's that holistic approach that we see is the most important. Mark, we were chatting about this a little bit earlier, but like for you, some of the importance that you see is also that like feedback loop into those detections, right? And for context here for folks, Mark has like six years working in Splunk in his background, so tons of yeah, I suppose yeah, tons of depth in just how important these detections are.
Yeah, I mean, again, uh, taking a short journey in time, but 15 years ago, when security and SIEM started, uh, probably the first technology that was out there was a software called Oxide that most people were using.
Mhm.
And the issue then became, oh, we heard about hundreds of terabytes. 15 years ago, that was a challenge, just technologically. So, and that's when Splunk kicked in and solved that scalability problem and made data searchable, usable, and all of that. And right now, uh, combining that You have the platform, you have the workflows, the automation. You also mentioned technologies like Amberlogic, Databricks, and Cribble, bringing all of the pieces together. It's like in a factory where you have different elements coming together, and that's what we're seeing right now.
Yeah, I love it. And definitely, it's like yeah, there's multiple parts or multiple yeah chess pieces on the board to get back to Roland's Roland's experience. Roland, I'd love to like I want to talk a little bit about your roadmap and some of the areas you're thinking about specifically for agents. And I know you touched on this already, but it'd probably help to dive into an example if you have any. Like, is there any area that you think any particular type of alert or any particular workflow that you're like, look, this is primed for agents to come in and really help with?
Yeah, so we are literally implementing and fine-tuning and make it better month by month. Uh, Two main use cases, and of course we'll extend that. But literally now, as we speak, it's 17th of November, I have two main use cases on my desk working with AI agents, and this is the incident response piece coming back to the flow. So in the beginning, when I started in SAP, when we had what we call incident, meaning, it cannot even be something critical. You just get an alert into Splunk and you just go together and see what's all about. Everything was people went into that call and actually they said, "Oh, let's look into this data," and another guy had another idea. Let's look into this data, and then everybody came, and then they were putting things together. And now we moved into we have we do that much more automated, let's say. So we have now tools that can interrogate. We are still running, different queries there and there. So it's in the middle of the process. What I want is when people go into what we call major incident management call or bridge call or whatever the name it is, everything is there. When they join the call, they have all the information. So the agents are actually pulling all these data sets, putting it all together. I have Times that actually builds or whatever the workflows, the playbooks for SOAR. And based on the type of event and based on the data sets that they gather, they already know what could be the next action based on what they see. And in that call, we went together and say, hey, look, we have this evidences, this data. The next action should be that one. Does somebody else have a different opinion or whatever, and then we brainstorm on it, and it takes from hours on that call to maybe 5, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Okay, it depends on how critical the decision is and what could be the impact, but it can even be a 5 to 10 minutes decision or even less than that. So that's one of the main use case. Then the second one is, and what our organization is asking us for, we may have different incidents that initially look security, but then it's different sort of operational aspects out there. Now they want to see the proper root cause analysis and they don't want to see it in 7 to 14 days. That's what actually it can even take because you just go there and even look into, what commands were created and why and what's the reason, look in the ticket, what ticket was there. So all these steps. So for us is really would be incredibly helpful if we can get to an RCA in even less than 1 day, maybe in hours.
Yeah.
That will be extremely helpful for the organization to actually first, take measures, but also know, and even when we have to go back to our customers or we have to explain it, imagine RCAs today take quite a lot of time. Imagine to go back in the same time, hey, the RCA is this one. We have looked into that one, having the report already. Okay, there are humans to look into it and see if actually it makes sense. But then dramatically decreasing the time you spend and even you deliver to a customer. So these are the two main use cases I would say that actually lie on and were even discussed in our leadership offsite and how to actually make it better from that perspective, even in security. And these are my two main things.
Yeah, they're both beautiful use cases as well. They have to be fast, but they don't have to be like machine speed. You can gather context from a whole load of different sources. Understanding the like I suppose understanding the context of the incident and being able to access all those tools is pretty easy. but writing the report and like preparing it and understanding the impact of it is actually like, yeah, it's a pain. But yeah, being able to pass all of that information up, especially for an RCA situation, is really easy. And same like making predictive suggestions of what should happen in the event of a large incident is really, yeah, it's really, it's a very smart use case for agents and for agentic AI.
Yeah.
I want to focus a little bit on your roadmap to an AI SOC and to that future. Um, what are some of the elements involved? What are some of the things you're focusing on and you're thinking about? What's
Yeah.
important?
So we have to become more proactive. I call proactive operations.
Hmm.
So I would want automation and AI to even identify possible risks or emerging risks and actually recommend remediation paths before there is an impact. That's one thing, moving more to what we call proactive. Then it's human AI collaboration at scale. How can we work better with AI instead of how can we work better, in teams and all that? We also have another parallel. How can we work better with AI? Um, Closed loop learning. So every input or decision that we take as humans actually fits back into the logic, the AI logic, detection logic, whatever, making it the future better or the future response or action better. Um, then I would say embedded compliance and meaning every decision or action, yeah, needs to be easily evidenced. Yeah. So it needs to be time stamped. It needs to be explainable. It needs to be traceable. It's critical for the overall audits and the regulatory frameworks that we need to adhere in different countries and different areas around the world. Um, and it needs to be flexible, I would say, infrastructure. So we want to choose between deterministic, autonomous, hybrid workflows, and even manual sometimes based on, the risk and the comfort level that we have either for that use case or in general as a company that will actually give us a bit of flexibility to run AI, let's say, securely within our cloud environment. That's how it looks like. And of course, I would say even we need to have some measurable outcomes, some measurable KPIs, I would say. Yeah, and we start with reductions in mean time to detect and then mean time to respond, which is a classic for a SOC or or a CISO, I would say. Fewer missed alerts, higher analyst capacity. But I would say we expect agentic workflows to play a bigger role as different autonomous components that actually collaborate to tune detections, to create detections, to enrich cases, to propose remediation that are actually, they need to become tools that an analyst would have at hand to be able to support their even decisions and in the untraceability, compliance, etc. So I want it to be a tool set that an analyst would have in their bag every time they go and they have to do an action. The bottom line is we are not automating for the sake of automation or for the sake of AI or because it's a buzzword and it's cool and it's nice to have and we have to talk about it. We are automating to scale even the trust and to deliver the reliable, auditable, and fast security operations for our customers. That's the main goal.
I really like that.
That's the AI SOC we want.
Automating trust should be the yeah, that should be our new tagline on our AI SOC. It beautifully kind of mirrors our approach to the AI SOC as well. Like it has to be flexible, it has to be adaptable, it has to be scalable, but it has to be like on that foundation of trust. Because if you don't have that, yeah, you're dealing with it's no better than a black box or a junior analyst that's just like cranking out some random decisions. So yeah, the providing that secure, reliable integration layer is where we aim to be. Um, this has been awesome. We're kind of at just about at time now. We've got a couple of minutes for questions, but before we dive into questions, I just want to say thank you both for sharing your approach to AI, talking a little bit about the future, talking a little bit about the future of SOAR and agents. I think everything, yeah, aligns really well with how we're thinking about it. So it's been a lot of fun for me. I'm gonna have a quick look at the chat to see to see what some of those questions are. Okay, one second here. All right. Yeah, okay. So focusing on the analyst, as AI and automation, it's a very formal question. As AI and automation take on repetitive tasks, what new skills or ways of thinking do you expect from your analysts to maximize effectiveness?
That's they need to become friends with AI. So I would
Prompt,
say
yeah. Prompt engineers? Maybe
so
not. Yeah.
yeah, no, I mean, um I think they will need to be to learn how to better interpret and challenge the output of an AI, not just accept it as, the truth of the world. They need to focus more on analytical reasoning. So they are not searching for an answer now, but they are looking at like, hey, actually, is it the right pattern? Do I recognize the pattern? Do I have the adversarial thinking based on the answer? So they are allowed now to even go in the mind of an attacker, see the data sets. Is it actually fitting what that could happen? And then it's more like developing these hypotheses or strong hypothesis-driven investigation methods, how I like to call it. Understand the context more, like what's normal for the environment, why there are deviations there. Would that matter if there is a deviation there and there? So I would say it's about it's learning how to work with automation and AI that actually makes I mean, puts your brain to work with some things that are really cool and not automated repetitive tasks that you will spend a lot of time with. So I would call it automation literacy that will become a core skill for 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 the analysts. But in the same time, I think we have to look for people that have this kind of soft skills in critical thinking, but also in communication. How to write to an AI is also important in the end, based on what you write there. It can be the different output. So it's cross-functional collaboration, it's critical thinking, it's automation literacy. All that I think would be part of a new job description, in
Yeah,
my.
that's kind of inspiring as well. There's a lot of folks that are, think, hey, AI is going to just, well, not just replace, but actually, what you're saying is that actually, like, it'll not just lead to like more impactful jobs. It'll actually lead to more enjoyable process and a more, yeah, deeper thinking and a deeper awareness of the security landscape, which is really, yeah, it's a really positive way. I almost wish that was the question we ended on, but I'll ask one more just to kind of for because we have the time. So it's like, were there any surprises or unexpected challenges when you started integrating AI into your SOC?
So surprises. I would say maybe the number. I mean, it's not even a surprise, but anyway, I'll put it as surprise. So I think everybody, or analysts, but everybody trusted AI too much early on. So it's like, oh,
Yeah.
the God is here. Now everything he says is true. So I think everybody had this like, and then, start challenging and say, hey, maybe, yeah, you're right. This is not the best answer, or this is not the best data set, etc. So I think there were a lot of high expectations because you see it works well and processes a large amount of data sets and etc. So I would say even the output was accepted quite fast
Yeah.
initially, without actually a bit of verification, a bit of governance, a bit of guardrails in there, a bit of, something that there is nothing established. It's like, oh, we trust it. It's cool. Then I would say tuning automation is
Mhm.
a new thing. So actually, we realized it took initially more time than expected to tune an automation than to tune something that you've done whatever semi-manually in the past. But once you realize it, or you know how to do it, and gets into an established process, it gains the efficiencies and speed you need. Um, AI highlighted gaps in our own detections and playbooks, which was actually also a cool thing because we said, oh, actually, we are perfect, it's good, and it's running whatever. And then AI showed us, you know what, actually, here it's a room for improvement, which was actually even, insightful from time to time. Um, and yeah, I
Yeah.
would say if you think AI will give productivity, yeah, you think, okay, you have speed, but then I will actually earn productivity. I would say the boosts of productivity were somehow non-linear. So it came more and then it came less and then it came again much more. So I would say, as a conclusion, once you have your foundational workflows automated and set, the second layer of AI improvements amplified the productivity level dramatically. So it was not linear. It was a bit like, the stock market or the crypto market or whatever, this kind of stuff.
That's a really really interesting answer. I love that. I love that you said that like AI started, I suppose critiquing. I've had a bunch of situations where that's happened where like I'll be like, oh, this alert's amazing, and then it will just suddenly be like, also, this system's unencrypted. You should be. I'm like, oh, yeah, I do need to do that, but because it does know, it'll just like keep on reminding you, and every single time that alert comes up, you're like, okay, yep, this is you're putting me to shame, which is fantastic. Um, Folks, this has been a lot of fun, but I think this is all we're going to have time for. I've really enjoyed this conversation. Can I just recap? Obviously, like, AI and Tines and AI and Tines in general, like we're a super flexible platform. What we talked about today, Tines is not limited to any pre-built type of alerts. We talked about tons of different types of alerts today. But yeah, we really hope that you've enjoyed the conversation and yeah, like learned a little bit about, I suppose, the future of security operations and how you can use Tines to automate and to bring intelligent workflows to everything across security and beyond. We haven't shown you a demo today. For those in your audience who are interested in seeing a demo, I'll be demoing Tines AI SOC, our version of it, on our next webinar. I think it's on December 3rd. So come along and say hello and ask some questions at that. Um, and yeah, just in general, thank you to everybody who's joined. If you want to catch up on anything you may have missed, or you want to watch back and capture some of those the highlights of what Roland or Mark has said, and just like clip it and send it to your boss. We'll be sending out a recording of this tomorrow morning, I think, bright and early. But yeah, if you're curious and want to learn a little bit more, you can reach out to the Times team as well, and you can check out the Docs tab in the current your current window for some more resources on how you can get started as well. So yeah, just lastly, Roland, Mark, thank you so much for coming along. I've really enjoyed this conversation, and yeah, I'm hoping to get you guys on a webinar soon as well. So thank you
Thanks,
so much.
Austin. Thanks.